Steeler Nation, thank you guys for tuning in on yet another edition of the Steeler Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football. And today was the deadline for the Pittsburgh Steelers to trim their roster down to the initial 53-man roster, and they have done just that. They have released their initial 53-man roster, and looking at who has made the roster, some questions were answered. Some guys truly earned their roster spot, but at the same time, looking at who the Steelers made on their roster, also left you with some questions at the same time.
Now, keep in mind, this is the initial 53-man roster, which means it's not going to be the actual roster going into week one versus the Jets come September 7th. They will be making moves in the days coming. So they will be adding people to IR. They could potentially trade for somebody. They didn't make no trades towards the end of the deadline, so I wouldn't anticipate any trades, but, you never know. Anything could happen around the NFL world. They will be adding people to the roster. They could be bringing some of the players that they cut. They could bring them back. If they clear waivers, they could bring some of these guys back for the practice squad. They can bring them back for roster purposes when they add certain people to IR. We're going to get into all that discussion today, but to come out early into the discussion, I was surprised by four players specifically, that were cut. One was Cameron Johnston just yesterday. He was cut yesterday along with Ben Sauls, which, Ben Sauls was never going to make the roster over Chris Boswell. Boswell, out of everybody on this roster, was guaranteed his spot. But, seeing the Dolphins don't have a kicker for the first several weeks, we thought maybe Omar Khan could get a little something out of Ben Sauls, seeing he was 4 for 4 versus the Panthers in week 3 of the preseason. Ben Sauls was cut, but so was Cameron Johnston, who the Steelers signed to a 3-year, $9 million contract just last offseason. Unfortunately, he only had 2 punts of his Steeler career last year, week 1 versus the Falcons, before he hyperextended his knee that took him out all last season, and they called up a familiar face named Corliss Waitman. And he did a phenomenal job all last season, filling in. And to the point, you know what? That's now his official job. He's not a fill-in. He is officially the starting punter for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Full time.
This was a surprising cut to me. Nothing against Corliss Waitman. He's very good. He did a very, very good job last year, and he's had a great summer. One thing you got to give him credit for is he's got a leg. He's got distance.
And he's got that hang time. I think it was actually recorded that his hang time is close to 5 seconds, 4.8 to be exact.
Yeah, that helps a lot for a lot of the gunners on special teams to make plays down there, right?
It's pretty damn good, it is.
So Waitman absolutely deserved it. I was surprised Johnson was cut because he was healthy. He was back to normal. And me personally, I think he's the better punter. But Johnson won't be a free agent too long. Johnson will find a job elsewhere. And Waitman, he's cheaper for the Steelers, and he's just as reliable. Thus, they decided to go with the guy that stepped in last year.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely caught me by surprise seeing the news of Johnson being released because, he was the ideal guy to be the punter for the next 3 years. It's just, the injury unfortunately happened come week 1. But, I mean, we got to give props to Waitman for filling in and doing what he needed to do and just being that reliable punter for the rest of the season last year. Now he gets to hold that title full time. And I mean, he had a very good summer. He had a very good preseason. The guy's definitely earned it. He's younger, he's cheaper. And honestly, Schefter actually tweeted that Waitman actually had some interest elsewhere.
Really?
Yes. According to Adam Schefter via just this morning, the Saints inquired about trading for Corliss Waitman before the Steelers made the final decision to stick with him.
Wow. So they had 2 really good punters on the roster, and they still elected not to trade Waitman and keep him.
Yep.
Over a vet like Cameron Johnston.
Yep.
Does a lot about how the Steelers value a guy like Corliss Waitman. So good for him. Johnston will find work elsewhere very, very, very soon because he is still a very great punter himself. It's very rare that we've had 2 good punters on the roster. We, for a while, didn't even have 1 good punter. To have 2.
Bro, we drafted one in Presley Harvin thinking, hey, he's our punter for the future. And he never, no,
he wasn't.
Not even close.
No, he wasn't. And the Steelers had 2 good punters, had to make a tough decision. So, I was surprised by Cameron Johnson's cut just yesterday, and 3 today. James Pierre did not make the initial 53. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be back, unfortunately, but he didn't make the initial 53. That was surprising. The other one was Chuck Clark, because the Steelers only have 8 defensive backs on the initial 53 so far. That's 5 corners and 3 safeties. I would have thought Chuck Clark would have locked for the 4th spot because he's a veteran. He has several starting experience, and he's got that versatility. They could still bring him back too. But the biggest one I was definitely surprised for, and there were talks that it was potentially going to happen, and it did come to reality. Beanie Bishop. Beanie Bishop was cut. He could clear waivers. Maybe the Steelers bring him back as well. I'm not going to entirely, be sold on that. I'm not going to get my hopes up so much. Beanie Bishop was cut. Why would they cut Beanie Bishop? Well, it's pretty simple. Corner stacked. They added Ramsey. They added Slay. They added Brandon Eccles. Where does Beanie fit? Unfortunately, he fits nowhere. And the damaging part about him not being able to make the roster is mostly due to him not playing special teams. James Pierre can, although that didn't save him a roster spot. Brandon Eccles definitely can. And Brandon Eccles has that in and out versatility. He can bounce outside. He can bounce inside when necessary. Brandon Eccles had a great summer. He had a great preseason. Definitely better than Beanie Bishop. And I really like Beanie. I'm a little upset Beanie got cut because I think he's a solid player that they could grow to be maybe a future starter for this team. Last year, as an undrafted free agent for a local visit from West Virginia, he came in 4 picks last year. He's not the greatest in coverage. No, he's not. He didn't have the perfect rookie season. He's not the perfect corner. But I thought he was a solid player that maybe the Steelers could have kept him. They didn't because they have all these other new faces in the corner room, and there's just not much Beanie can offer to the roster right now. I would argue that they should have kept him for depth purposes, but keeping him as the 5th corner on the depth chart and not having any special teams capabilities, that damaged Beanie Bishop's ability to make the roster. Now, I still would have kept Beanie personally because depth at corner is very important. We know that as Steelers fans. Now, I know we still got good depth. We got Brandon Eccles that can do a little bit of everything, really. But even still, God forbid Ramsey gets hurt. Well, then you bounce Eccles in the slot, which is exactly why they added him, which is why Eccles made the roster. But God forbid Ramsey gets hurt and Slay gets hurt at the same time. Same game maybe, right? Or
knock on wood.
God forbid,
seriously, knock on wood.
God forbid, they're aging. They both have a little bit of injury concerns with their age now. Anything could happen. Then at that point, you ounce Eccles outside opposite JPJ. Who fills the slot? Right now, we have no one else to do that, which is why I would have kept Beanie. No, he doesn't play special teams. He doesn't have any value there, but I still would have kept him for that purpose alone. And frankly, I think he could have been a future starter along this team if you would have let him sit behind and work him in sub packages or dime packages. And then maybe next year, I don't envision Slay being here after 2025. You bounce Ramsey outside, could have inserted him there. But they're also thinking, hey, we got Eccles to do the exact same thing. I would have kept Beanie. I'm a little upset he didn't, but I understand the Steelers' reasoning. Maybe they bring him back. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but Beanie Bishop was cut, guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to get my hopes up on the possible, return of Beanie to the Steel City and whatnot. It sucks seeing him go because I thought he had a very solid rookie season, considering, the cornerback room. And I mean, they brought Cam Sutton back, but he got suspended, with his situation in the offseason, last offseason. And Beanie stepped in. He was gifted the opportunity. I think from day one, he was already listed as the number 1 cornerback on the depth chart.
Yep.
And, he just, worked his tail off. He worked his way. He kept that role from, week 1 and kept that until Cameron Sutton came back. But from what I've seen, I mean, Beanie, I thought, far from perfect, but I thought, it was solid. Coming from an undrafted free agent, what he brought to the table, I was intrigued by. I thought it was something that, he had potential of doing, and he showcased some of that potential. He really laid it out all on the line on that field, and it was something that the Steelers could have really looked at and been intrigued at and just continue to help him grow and build around and build upon, for Beanie, as he gets more experience throughout the NFL.
Sure.
Beanie, his time appears to be done with the Steelers. He could be a guy that could be brought back for the practice squad.
If he clears,
if he clears waivers,
yeah.
But it's not always guaranteed if he clears waivers.
Well, I think he's got a role somewhere in the league, but for the Steelers, there's just no room for him because they've added so many other people.
Looking back at the cornerback room from last year, he had a role. This year, not necessarily.
Yeah.
The Steelers, looked to get better, to bolster the cornerback room, and that they did, at least on paper. That they did. And for Beanie, it's just, it's tough. It's a tough business move. He had no role, though I felt like you said, depth. at nickel cornerback is very important. And I feel like there could have still been a role for Beanie in certain packages and rotations or dime packages if Terrell Austin wants to actually be creative for once.
Yeah.
There could have been a way to utilize Beanie Bishop and still have him learn under Ramsey and still develop him as a homegrown slot cornerback.
Well, even if he is brought back for the practice squad, there is still a chance that could happen. But again, a guy like Beanie, with how young he is and what he did for the Steelers defense last year, I'm not sure if he's going to clear waivers for the Steelers to bring him back. Things could happen, but yeah, it seems like Beanie's end of the line for the Steelers has been arrived or has come to its dead end right now for Beanie.
And considering how he performed as a rookie, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's picked up just like that. I mean, the guy has, something. He has something to bring to the table. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's a guy that wants to go out there and work his tail off and work. And, he showcased that a little bit. NFL teams are going to be intrigued by that.
For sure. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things where Omar Khan wanted to revitalize the entire corner position, and that he did, and Beanie just doesn't have a role. The fact that he doesn't have versatility and he doesn't have special teams ability, it cost him. It did. So best of luck to Beanie Bishop. I appreciate the 4 picks last year and what he did in a lot of games. We'll see what his future holds, man. Best of luck. But clearly, the Steelers think that they are perfectly fine at the corner room. But only 5 corners so far on the initial 53-man roster. Again, the initial, which means more could happen. 2 other guys did make the 53. Will Howard, they kept 4 quarterbacks. Will Howard made the initial 53, and even 7th-round rookie Donte Kent made the roster over Beanie and over Corey Trice. Donte Kent didn't play a single game.
No.
Not one single game. But the reason they kept those 2 is because they were selections later on in this previous draft class. They want to keep them around. They like them a lot as potential late-round depth guys, and they wanted to be able to potentially place them on IR designated to return later on this season, which is exactly what I would anticipate is going to happen in the coming days. Will Howard will be placed on IR. I mean, his injury isn't so severe he'll be out all season, but it's just one of those things they're going to place him on IR to designate him to return, and then they'll fill another spot elsewhere in Will Howard's spot. Now that he could be put on IR. Same thing with Donte Kent. Donte Kent is back to practicing, but they could still put him on IR. They did exactly that with Corey Trice as well. Corey Trice was placed on IR at the deadline. He could be back as early as week 4, I believe. Now, he was saying he was trying to get all healthy and heal from his hamstring injury to be ready for week 1. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
But he is on IR designated to return as well. So they really want to keep a lot of these young guys that they drafted later on in the previous draft classes. Omar Khan likes the players that he brought in. He wants to give them an opportunity. So that's why they made the roster, Kent and Howard. And I would imagine they're going to be placed on IR to potentially bring someone back or fill another role on the roster.
Yeah.
But outside of that, yeah, I mean, I wasn't really surprised by any of the other cuts. I know one of them was former 3rd-round pick from the horrendous 2022 Steelers draft class, DeMarvin Leal. He was cut, which was expected. There was just not a spot for him. He mostly moved to edge the last couple of years. He's been battling injuries ever since coming out of Texas A&M. Just hasn't really found a spot.
It wasn't a good scheme fit with DeMarvin Leal. I mean, I liked his film from Texas A&M. I liked his talent and potential that he could have brought when initially selected in the 3rd round. But just looking at the usage of DeMarvin Leal, they tried him out throughout the entire defensive line, from D tackle to DN to just this past preseason. They had him full time at edge, to which Leal made some plays. He looked solid. He was flashy a little bit.
Well, they had to move him to edge because he's undersized to play the defensive line.
But again, it goes to show like the scheme fit for Leal and the Steelers, it just wasn't there.
No.
They tried him around the defensive line and edge. Just, it was already bolstered. The depth was already bolstered. Edge, absolutely. Defensive line, they completely revamped that from years ago. And again, DeMarvin Leal's durability, it just wasn't holding it up.
No.
So Leal's time comes to an end. It's unfortunate because Leal, I feel like, even as a depth guy or as a rotational guy, he can still bring something to the table. It's just we already have the guys in front of him.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
But along with the Marvin Leal, would you please list the rest of those that were released? Which some of these names are pretty interesting. Some veterans, actually.
Yeah, I actually want to go down the list of the not so notable releases, just real quick, just to get them, right off. Offensive line will go Doug Nesser, Julian Pearl, Stephen Jones, Aiden Williams, and Max Sharping. Running back, Evan Hall and Trey Sermon. Now, Trey Sermon's an interesting one. If he happens to clear waivers, I would anticipate him to possibly be signed back to the practice squad.
Yeah.
If not him, Lou Nichols. Wide receiver, Max Hurlman, who's another candidate for practice squad in my opinion. He was another guy that kind of made plays. Lance McCutcheon, Keyshawn Williams, and Brandon Johnson. That's for wide receiver. Tight end, I can't pronounce this. I'm going to try. Kevin Folsk. Tight end, I didn't make the team. I probably butchered his last name. Defensive line, Kyler Ball and Dominique Davis. Linebacker, Kenny Wilkies and Julius Welshkoff. Defensive back, Deshaun Jameson, Daryl Porter, Cam Alexander, Quindell Johnson, Kyler McMichael, and Mikey Victor. Kicker, Ben Souls, like we said earlier, and long snapper, Jake McQuaid. So they didn't make the roster, but now the notable releases, decided to kind of separate, the obvious releases, the notable releases right here. Dylan Cook did not make the team. Not even as a backup right tackle, not even as an extra swing tackle. That is Calvin Anderson's role. And Dylan Cook's release, I would assume, is an indication that Calvin Anderson is slowly getting healthy, and he's obviously going to be the primary, swing tackle, left or right.
Right.
Dylan Cook doesn't make the team. Under development for 3 years now, and this summer, he had some first team reps when Broderick was initially injured at the start of training camp. He was splitting that with Calvin Anderson. It's just when it came to game time during the preseason, I just wasn't all that impressed with Dylan Cook, and neither were the Steelers. Under development for 3 years, and nothing really sticks out. You don't really make the most of your opportunities when it comes to game time. Not to say that he was overly bad. He had an okay preseason, just not enough to make the team. So Dylan Cook doesn't make it. Robert Woods.
Bobby Trees does not make the 53, which to no one's shock.
No.
He just didn't do anything. He was probably the most quiet Steeler all summer. I'm not lying to you. I can't tell you one highlight I heard of Bobby Trees in training camp, and he showed nothing in preseason. In fact, I think he only had one catch all preseason.
That was the first preseason game against the Jags.
That's it.
After that, Robert Woods primarily ran with the fourth stringers. I could have thought for sure once the Steelers signed him that he was going to make the team because he's that veteran. He's got that experience. Didn't save Robert Woods right here. Though Ian Rappaport reported that, there's a possible, both sides are open for a reunion.
So he could be a practice squad candidate.
He could be brought back, potentially, if he clears waivers. But Robert Woods doesn't make the initial team. And I'm not surprised. He was practically non-existent. Let's be real here. Iku Leota. That's another edge player that, wasn't really going to make the team. But I will say, Leota was really flashy. He did a lot in the preseason.
Yeah, I was impressed because he had a good couple of days in camp. He looked good in the edge situation in preseason from time to time. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers try to bring him back. He's got a little bit of some diciness to him. So maybe they sit him under development for a little bit and see what he can do in the next coming years.
Absolutely. Mark Robinson.
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me.
No.
Because the writing was on the wall when they selected Carson Bruner, son of former Steelers tight end Mark Bruner, in the draft this past year. The writing was on the wall that Mark Robinson was going to be out because Mark Robinson was in the last year of his rookie contract. He's a special teams guy. Well, they selected Carson Bruner in the 7th round to replace Mark Robinson, and thus that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Carson Bruner made the 53-man roster. They're both very good special teams guys. It's just Carson Bruner's younger. He's got a longer contract, and he was brought in to be Mark Robinson's eventual replacement.
Yeah, Mark Robinson's time in Pittsburgh, you just got a sense that it was ending. Robinson's role was not really increasing, or nothing was really improving with Mark Robinson outside of him being a good special teams guy, to which
he had his role.
He did.
That was his role, and the Steelers already had a replacement in mind, and thus here it is, Carson Bruner.
No, but Mark Robinson, I would not be shocked if he were to be signed up real quickly due to his special teams value.
Right.
So he should be signed elsewhere pretty soon. But I would say that Mark Robinson's time in Pittsburgh is officially up. And Sebastian Castro, when he was signed as an undrafted free agent, he was probably somebody kind of like the Beanie Bishop of this year. You know, more notable undrafted free agent, somebody that could have had a role and made his way onto the initial 53. He does not. Because the Steelers, they keep 3 safeties, and they released veteran Chuck Clark, and they also released Sebastian Castro. But Sebastian Castro, he's still an intriguing player. He made some plays. He had some good, hits in preseason. Thought he had a very solid summer overall. I would say that he would be a candidate for the practice squad if he were to clear waivers as well. Just a guy to keep around, just to, have as an extra safety as well as an extra special teams guy.
Yeah, I would. If I'm the Steelers, I'm definitely bringing him back to, keep him in the system. I think he showed very much good progress in the preseason. I think he's a good thumper. He's a damn good tackler. He's got some special teams ability. I like to see a little more versatility because I know he worked a little bit in the slot in Iowa, and we never really utilized any of that because, we even cut Beanie Bishop because we're so stacked in the slot. So they wanted to give Castro that safety time, and in that safety time, he looked solid. But they didn't even keep Chuck Clark, so they weren't going to keep an undrafted guy like Castro. So I would hope the Steelers bring him back. Now, on to the actual 53-man roster, the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Skylar Thompson. 4 quarterbacks. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to run with all 4 quarterbacks all season because they're not. When was the last time they had 4 quarterbacks on the roster for the entirety of the season? Never. If you can tell me or let me know of a year, please do down in the comments. But I can't recall in my lifetime. Will Howard will eventually go to IR. Jerry Dulac actually confirmed that the Steelers are planning to put him on the IR eventually, which could be in the next coming days, which will open a roster spot to bring back a Chuck Clark or James Pierre or maybe even a Beanie or someone else along whatever position that they're going to need. Maybe they pick up someone off waivers that they want to add, maybe in the wide receiver room potentially. Will Howard, they wanted to keep him. He didn't play a single preseason game, which is very unfortunate, and Skylar showcased enough to make the 53, and he'll be the 3rd quarterback. Will Howard will go to IR, and I don't know when he could return, but he'll be on IR designated to return. Keep in mind, when he's on IR, he cannot practice until the Steelers open up his return window, his 21-day return window. We don't know when that's going to happen. That could be as early as week 4. That could be as late as December. Either way, they're going to keep Will Howard on the roster. He's still going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, and that was going to be the case for him all year anyway. So this just ensures that Thompson makes the roster and they still keep Will Howard under contract. Running backs. Jaylen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and of course, Kenneth Gainwell. That's a no-brainer. Everyone knew that. Offensive line, you have Broderick Jones at left, Isaac Seumalo at left guard, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fatanu. In terms of depth, you have Calvin Anderson, who's your swing tackle. You have Spencer Anderson, an emergency for Seumalo, who got all of the first-team reps at left guard. You got Ryan McCollum and Andres Pete, former first-round pick of the Saints, who has played some tackle, some left guard, and the Steelers keep him. They only had him for a short number of weeks, and he still makes the roster because of that experience and because of that versatility along that line. He can be like an emergency option at tackle or even at guard. That's not an offensive lineman right there. The depth is still concerning.
Very, especially at tackle. In my honest opinion, I feel like they could go out there and look for another tackle just to bolster the depth because quite a few tackles were cut today. I would imagine that they're going to do their due diligence and look at set options at tackle just to bolster or even guard at that. Spencer Anderson wasn't exactly that great.
No, he wasn't.
In preseason, even with the first team.
No.
So just a way to kind of bolster the offensive line for tackle depth or better swing tackle depth and, of course, guard right there because you're going to need it because if anything happens, knock on wood, to the starting offensive line, I mean, who's going to protect A-Rod?
Yeah, let's hope and pray that everyone stays healthy along the offensive line. Because, we need it. Aaron Rodgers especially needs it.
Keep them fingers crossed, man, because last year, my God.
Tight ends. To no one's shock, they keep 4 tight ends, and you guys already know the names. Pat Freiermuth, Joni Smith, Darnell Washington. And for some freaking reason, Connor Hayward makes it again.
We know the reason.
What is his value?
He's a Hayward.
He's a Hayward.
The bloodlines,
and I guess, he can work special teams.
The bloodlines.
But that's it. Is he a good fullback? No. Is he a good tight end? No. But he still makes the roster. Good for the Haywards, I guess. Wide receiver, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, Ben Skoranek, and our guy, Scotty Too Hottie, Scotty Miller makes the roster as deserving. Strong summer, strong preseason, strong game versus the Panthers.
Yeah, outside of Skylar Thompson, Scotty Miller was probably the most deserving guy on this initial 53 to make the team.
Yeah.
The guy balled out, made the most of his reps, is just flashy, speedy, can get separation. Good hands at that, too. I was very surprised by Scotty Miller.
Now, wide receiver is still pretty bare, though. Like, I like the room, but it's not, when DK goes, I don't want to say when, God forbid.
Yeah, don't.
If DK goes down, what the hell is this?
What's your outside depth?
Roman and Scotty. You're not putting Skoranek outside. He's mainly a special teamer and a blocker. He can play outside. He's got the body frame to do it, but
is it ideal?
No, it's not. But if you're asking me, would you rather go with this or grab a wide receiver that was cut today? Go with this because, frankly, you look at all the wide receivers that were cut today, one including Donte Johnson,
Color me shocked.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You had Hunter Renfrow get cut, however many others. Frankly, none of them are no better than Scotty Miller. So you might as well just run with this. I would still hope that they trade for a wide receiver at some point. When that's going to be, we don't know.
That's probably the likely scenario if they were to add another wide receiver. And I know everyone's going to throw out the name Jacoby Myers. I'm aware, I know, and the Raiders, they brought back Amari Cooper, so that could indicate something. I don't know.
That could mean nothing. They're very persistent at keeping
I'll
him.
believe it when I see it. I'm not going to put all my attention into it.
No.
I'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not going to say, yes, get Jacoby Myers. I'll believe it when I see it.
I would love Jacoby Myers, but no. Just like the Terry McLaurin situation, I'm not getting my hopes up. But yeah, wide receiver is very bare. I like the names. They're going to give Roman Wilson the opportunity, which is fair game. He was drafted in the 3rd round. Omar Khan likes his draft classes. He likes the guys he brought in. They're going to give him a lot of opportunity, which is why he kept a lot of the guys on this specific initial 53-man roster. That includes the defensive line. Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon, Cameron Hayward are your starters. Derek Harmon won't play week 1, but he'll be your starter at some point. Y.A. Black, of course, made the roster. He'll probably start week 1 at the nose, maybe at the 3 tech.
I kind of hope so.
Daniel Ekuley, former Patriot, he made the roster. He's a strong run defender. Isaiah Loudermilk made the roster. Again, I don't know why.
One of those Colbert guys that are still sticking around.
Yeah, out of all the Colbert guys that Omar let go or trade away, for some reason he still likes Loudermilk. We kept 8 defensive linemen. Continuing on, we kept Logan Lee, which was going to happen. Again, Omar Khan likes the guys he brought in. Mm-hmm. He was a 6th-round pick out of Iowa last year. They didn't play a single game. Omar Khan's going to give him the roster spot and give him an opportunity. And another guy that I'm glad made the roster because I thought he had a good summer, and he definitely had a great preseason. He looked strong versus the Jags and especially versus the Panthers, man. 2 tackles for loss in the run game versus the Panthers in week 3 of the preseason. Azizi Otamwe, he made the roster. I thought he could have been a practice squad candidate, but Omar was like, you know what? I like what I saw. The point of fixing the defensive line and double dipping on the defensive line, and pretty much the whole point of this past draft class is stopping the run, and that's what he did to make his roster spot. He earned it.
And he impressed. He was very impressive.
Absolutely. So 8 defensive linemen. I think that's a little stocky. I know you want names. You definitely want depth. I could have been without Isaiah Loudermilk personally, but they like him. Steelers just like certain guys, man. It's unbelievable.
They like their milk.
I guess. Linebackers. We're going to start with the edge, obviously. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, and Jack Sawyer out of the Ohio State. Inside linebacker, Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen, Cole Holcomb, who I'm very excited to see back. Mm-hmm. Malik Harrison, and like we mentioned earlier, Carson Bruner, 7th rounder, made it. I like that linebacker room. Very stacked.
It's a strong linebacker room right there.
You could argue they don't need 5 inside guys, but typically they do. Because you look at it this way. You have Patrick Queen, you got Peyton Wilson and Cole Holcomb rotating always for most of the time. I mean, Patrick Queen is on the field most of the time. Then you'll probably have Holcomb and Wilson split. They won't 50-50 split, but it'll be a solid even split because Holcomb is, as good as new. He's in football shape. He's ready to go. He had a great summer himself. Malik Harrison's a strong run defender and a good blitzer. If anything happens to Holcomb or any of these other starters, Harrison fills in that role. It's like the new Atlanta Roberts role. And then Bruner's for special teams. That's why they keep as many in the inside room as they do. Defensive backs, only 8. That's 5 corners and 3 safeties. We'll start with the safeties. Elliott and Thornhill, are your starters. And then you have Miles Killebrew, who's a special teams captain, and that's it. We don't have safety depth, which means, yeah, Will Howard will go to IR and potentially Donte Kent, who made the roster. And now open spot for safety, maybe Chuck Clark or someone else. We don't know yet. But, yeah, Donte Kent made it. And again, Khan likes the guys he brought in. He likes the draft class. He really likes Kent. I was rooting for Kent to make the roster. I didn't think he would because he didn't play.
But Khan's not going to waste any of his draft capital.
No.
He's not going to in his first year, not like Colbert did.
No, it'll kind of be like the Ryan Watts situation where Ryan Watts played in last preseason, but got hurt, and unfortunately that forced him to retire earlier this summer, which is unfortunate. But they'll put Kent on IR, probably designated to return. That way they keep him on the roster and they keep him under contract. They want to keep him around and see what he's capable of. Maybe he takes the James Pierre role. I don't know. But Donte Kent made it. Brandon Eccles, Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, and Darius Slay. Corner's thin. Like, we were talking for months now. Wow, corner's so stacked. It's the most stacked we've had it. And this core is still very good. They have a strong 4. They could bring back James Pierre to take Kent's spot if Kent gets put on IR for special teams purposes or just because they really like Pierre. And they think Pierre's going to clear waivers if he lands on waivers, which he probably will. They're going to still add someone to that room. They're probably going to bring somebody back. Corner is pretty thin now in terms of depth a little bit because, God forbid, any of these injuries happen, and then you're really starting to rely on unknowns there. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to keep Beanie, but they wanted to keep Kent to keep him under contract, and they'll probably put him on IR, and they'll bring either Beanie or most likely James Pierre back. And then, like I mentioned earlier, they'll put Will Howard on IR and maybe bring back Chuck Clark to play safety because they have no other starting safety or no safeties with starting experience behind their starters right now. They're going to need some bodies there. And, of course, Chris Boswell, Corliss Waitman, and Christian Kuntz make the roster as your special teams guys. That's your initial 53-man roster. Quick couple notes. Eight defensive linemen. Pretty stocky. Could that change? Absolutely, it could change. I don't know who gets cut if they have to cut somebody, but that could be one of those spots on the roster they look at and it's like, that's a little heavy in the department. There's a little too many bodies there. Maybe we cut someone in that room to add another spot elsewhere on the roster for whatever position that could be. That could happen in the coming days. We'll put a couple guys on IR, and that could bring more bodies to what is a very thin defensive back room, at least right now on the initial 53-man roster. They definitely need to add more people there, and they will. I have no doubt in my mind they will in the coming days.
They have to. You can't run with 3 safeties.
They absolutely have to. They won't keep 4 quarterbacks because we know Howard's going to IR, so they'll keep Rodgers, Rudolph, and Thompson for the first several weeks. Your running backs are going to be the same. Your offensive line, I don't anticipate much to change there in the coming days. Your tight ends are set. Your wide receivers are set as far as I'm concerned. They could make a move at defensive line in terms of cutting someone to open a roster spot, but otherwise, your defensive line set in terms of starters in depth. Same thing with linebacker. So when it comes to them potentially making moves and adding extra people or bringing people back, we shouldn't expect anything so crazy. It'll just be, okay, we're going to put you here, put you there, and then we're going to bring so-and-so back. Do they still make a trade for whatever, particularly a wide receiver, ideally a wide receiver? Obviously, we hope so. We hope that if they do, the magnitude of it is where we can be set in that spot, set on the offense for sure, to make a run with Rodgers like they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, yeah, that's your 53, and any moves that they make shouldn't come to any surprise. Whether that's putting people on IR, bringing so-and-so back. I wouldn't expect anything so crazy. It's as simple as that. And there's no one that got cut today from any other team that's really intriguing me, where I'm like, go get him. Go get him off waivers. Go claim this guy. There's no one that's really popping to me where the Steelers should be going after.
No, not necessarily. I mean, like, I'm sure that they'll do their due diligence. They'll look at whoever got cut, like at tackle depth, for sure wide receiver, safety, even potentially defensive back overall. They'll look. They'll do their due diligence. They'll see who's out there. But Am I clamoring just like you? Am I clamoring like, hey, go get this guy? Not necessarily.
No, there's no one that pops off the screen to me. If there's someone for you guys that pops off, let us know down in the comments below. Love to hear any of you guys' suggestions. Maybe Steelers do claim somebody. Maybe they add them to the practice squad. And in fact, that's something that they're still going to have to do in the coming days as well. They will be filling their practice squad. Some of the cuts that Rob mentioned earlier, some of those guys could be brought back.
Yeah, guys like a Sebastian Castro, maybe a James Pierre potentially. You know, a Lou Nichols, a Trey Sermon, you know, just guys like that, you know, guys that I would love to see back. You know, an Iko Leota.
But they can't bring everybody
Not
back.
everybody. It's just guys, you know, I'm just throwing out there that I would like to see back. I'm not anticipating all the names to be brought back to the practice squad. I'm not anticipating everybody to be brought back, but we'll see. We'll see who they bring on to the practice squad.
One thing for sure is, yeah, this is the initial 53. This isn't the set roster for week 1. More moves will come, and those moves won't be anything crazy. It'll just be, we wanted to keep these guys for now so we could deal with them the way they have to and then bring others back because we know that they're going to be brought back anyway. It's just one of those things like, hey, like Chuck Clark, for example. Hey, Chuck Clark, we're going to cut you now, but, you know, stick around. We'll bring you back because we got to put like a Will Howard on IR or something like that. So that's all we can really anticipate in the coming days as now we are officially down to the 53. Steelers will continue to make the roster moves that they have to make. But now it's really just all about building towards the regular season. That is the next goal. That is the next destination. That is the eyesight now. That is out in focus for the Steelers, is getting ready for week 1 versus the New York Jets. They'll still do what they have to do from a roster aspect to set the roster up for week 1. It'll be interesting to see exactly what happens. But now the focus is, let's get ready for week 1. Steelers football is right around the corner. We already got preseason under wraps. We got the 53-man roster officially trimmed. Now it's just all about, let's get to week 1. So with that said, we'll keep you guys updated regarding anything the Steelers do this week or in the coming weeks. If they make any moves regarding the rumors or where they brought back, what they do from a roster aspect, we'll keep you guys updated and give you guys our honest opinions. Appreciate you all for tuning in, man. Let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Were any of these names surprises to you? How do you guys feel about the cut, the release of Beanie Bishop, or keeping certain guys on the roster? What would you have done differently? Let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Otherwise, follow us on the socials. You see them down in the overlay below. The links to them are also down in the description box, as well as the link to our Spotify. Feel free to listen to the audio form of this podcast. Links down in the description. Otherwise, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and see you in the next one. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!